Well, hey guys, where we left off is, well, see, we got our rotating assembly in. Turns over nicely, and yeah, I'm pleased with it. So let's get our cam in. Not sure, once again, we're doing this without any instructions. We're just going off of what we know about how engines are built. We're gonna go from there. So let's get our cam gear here. Take a look at it. And if you guys look real close, see if I can get it to focus in on there. You see that little dot right there? Hopefully you can see it. Well, anyhow, we have two dots here also, and they are super small. Let's see if you guys can pick them up. They're right here. But, all right, well, let's see if we can get these lined up. And then we're just going to see right where it says it's in time at. And we'll see if it's either advanced or retarded, or it's spot on. So we're lined up. And we were. Dumb fingers. All right. Get our support in here. And this might be some room for tweaking and adjustments, but I'm sure that I know we can get it to work right. So all right, we'll slide this in. We'll just see where our points want to open and close. So our points are open. Top dead right here. Points are still open. You guys see what's going on? Let me pull you in closer. Watch our points right here. See, they're still open. We're on our power stroke now. Exhaust stroke. Coming up on top dead, they're starting to go closed. And they're closed this far before top dead center. Right here, they're closed. So it's firing plenty far advanced. I don't know if we're going to use this engine for making power or we want it to run slow. We can always jump this back one tooth, retard our timing a little bit on our ignition. Yeah, I think that's way too far advanced. And we are right there in between our timing marks. Let me move this one. We'll see what we've got. All right, well, I moved that one. Let's see where we're at now. Let's see if I went the right direction or not. Okay, so we're coming up on top dead just by moving it one tooth. And here we're closed just before top dead now. So that's one tooth more. I think we're going to leave it there. We'll see what happens. If we need to move it back, we can move it back. We need to move it the other way. We can surely do that too. We've got that in. And something else I was looking at on this. You guys notice, see we've got a keyway cut right here. And we look at our slider, we've got a keyway cut in that. There's no keyway, no key stock in this kit. And I thought, well, I don't know if they want it to rotate on there or not, or they want it to be solid. So while I was looking through the archives department, I came up with this. Let me pull it up. You guys remember these, the first ones that they'd come out with from over there? Fairly simple, similar setup too. But look, this in here spins free. We're not really wanting to drive this with our crank. All we're doing is making it slide in and out. Pull this up on. This thing's getting kind of low on compression. We ought to do something about that. See if we can get this old girl running. But what we're doing is we're just sliding back and forth on the crank. I would think that if this is able to run with the crank, we're going to really start wearing on all of our governor linkage. So I think we're going to not worry about putting a piece of key stock in there. We're going to leave it to where it can freely rotate, just like that little blue one. All right. Well, let's keep moving ahead. And this thing here, guys, mine doesn't really want to move. It's fairly solid. I guess we can take that out, take a look at it. But the idea of, locking this back to hold our lockout open, I don't know. To me, that's just not a good idea. You're overriding the governor. And, yeah, so we'll see how things work out. We might just completely disable that, or even remove it. I mean, if there's a lever on there, you know how people are. What the hell's this do? Well, now you got a problem. If it's not on there, they don't use it. So, all right, let me see what we got to do on this here. Because we want this to be lined up. We got to get our lockout linkage. Move some more of this stuff over here so I can easily knock it off. Go through our bags. Here's our push rod. We'll be needing that here soon too. Here's our lockout linkage. We'll get this lined up. I want this to go on the inside slot. I don't see how this can even, with that stupid bar, this thing right here, I don't see how that can go in far enough to, it's not going to work. This thing's in the way. All right, let me get this out of here. Well, I got this off. It's got some little bitty detent balls in there. There's two of them stuck in here. You guys can see that. There's our springs for the detent balls. And there's a ball stuck underneath that fell out. And another one right here that fell out. I don't know. Let's see what happens if we just omit this thing altogether. Put that linkage back up in there and we'll see what happens. We'll save all these parts. If we need to put it back in, hell, we'll put it back in. But if we don't need it, I'm not planning on using it anyhow. So without it on there, that's one less thing that can be a problem. There. Now we can get all the way to our lockout. I like that a whole lot better. I think we're just going to leave that thing off. No reason for it to be on there in the first place. It's a neat feature, but like I said, I'm not going to use it. All right, let me get all this stuff lined up. I'm going to bring you guys right back. All right, well, we've got our pivot pin tight for our lockout here, but we're not tight here on our pivot shaft. That set screw is down here. I'll leave that loose for a second. What I'm planning on doing is rolling this engine over until that opens that cam up right there. See? And we'll roll it back the other way. We're going to rock this back and forth until we got a flat mating surface. I like that. We'll leave our cam tension on there. Make sure our pin's all the way in. Right there. See? I like that. Now we'll go ahead and we'll tighten up our set screw here for our pivot shaft. Now then we'll see if it'll unlock. Yeah, we have plenty of clearance. Some of these I've heard on the, well, I've seen their demonstration models. I've heard them run, and these gears just sound like they are chewing the shit out of one another. But these sound pretty good. It rolls over nicely. So, all right. Well, let's keep moving forward on this, guys. Let's get our piston in. You guys didn't see this, but we've got good compression. So even without it running yet, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it does seem to be sealing up. get this stuff here cleaned up out of the way. We'll start on that here in a second. Alright guys, well, here's all the parts for that lockout mechanism. I put them in this bag. The balls and the springs and everything are in here. So, you guys get to watch me. I'm putting them over here on the little bolt cabinet. Don't forget where they are, because I will. Alright, let's that feels good. Let's get our cylinder head on next. Start making this look a little bit more like an engine. It comes just like this. The valves are already installed. This will be our intake valve. It's nice and light. It's an atmospheric valve. That exhaust valve is nice and snug. Steel valves, brass seats. Looks to be nicely machined. Got a spot for an O-ring for a head gasket. Looks nice. Alright, get the head gasket. I'll get our cylinder head on. You guys will get to see where we go from here. Well, we got our head gasket sitting in there, and in that bag was a replacement piston ring. If you guys have one of these and you're curious, well, there you go. The piston ring is 20 millimeter by 2 millimeter. Head gasket is 25 by 1.5. Maybe you guys need that. Okay, tighten up our last head bolt here. And remember, always be sure to torque these to 2.8 metric tons. Make sure that you have your torque wrist set properly. Click. There you go. I like it so far. All right. Looking nice, don't you think? Nice. All right, let's get our rocker on here. This is going to be our push rod. Might as well get it out. And I think they intend for this spring to go to keep force back here on our cam follower. But this points lever right here, plenty strong enough the way it is. I mean, it's pushing that back. If we don't have anything binding up in our tube here to carry this, which feels fine, let's thread this in, make sure everything lines up good. So that threads into this cam follower. You guys can't see any of this. All right, well, maybe this will be better. Let's take a little pin vise here. That way I can keep my hand out of the way. What we're doing is we're threading it into this block back here. There, that better? You guys see what the heck's going on? There, we'll thread that in there. I'll get this off, and hopefully I can get this off. There we go. All right, now let's see if that wants to stick. Seems like it's traveling just fine. I don't know. Well, one thing's for sure, we're not going to lose this spring. We'll put this over here. I can lose it later. Let's get our rocker arm. I really do like this feature. This is nice. We have an adjustable rocker arm. So this will go in here, but right here, this is adjustable now. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this up in here. We'll put a jam nut on the back side. We'll set our valve lash for the exhaust valve. Start with backed all the way out. We'll get this dropped in here. Get our slide pin put through there. We'll see how all this works together. All right, we've got our pivot pin in. This is backed all the way out. We have plenty of clearance there. Let's turn this over and we'll see what we've got. Seems to be clearing just fine. Let's run this in a little bit. push our lockout in. We want our valve to still be open when it's locked out. It's got a lot more travel than I think it ought to have down here on our lockout. You guys see it down here? That's quite a bit of travel. That's all right. We'll get our valve set on this. See that? Holds it open quite a ways. We'll get this adjusted and we'll get it locked down. That'll be, you know, a little bit more trial and error. We'll get this figured out. I'm sure that there is a spec for it, and it does have some. I'll show you guys. We do have a 0.015 millimeter. I'm not sure where they want you to set that at. I'm sure there's a specific setup for it. It could be right there where it's locked out. They want 1.5 millimeters of travel. But I don't know why they would have it set there. It's beyond me. But we'll get it figured out. So, all right. I still think that's a little bit too tight even. We want our rocker arm to be able to just have a little bit of clearance on it, because when it's not locked out, we're going to lose all our compression. Maybe that's where our 1.5 millimeters of clearance comes in. We'll try that first. You guys got a fairly decent view of what's happening? I'm sure this is just riveting to you guys. There. Just slides through there. Let me get that nut tightened up. It's kind of hard to do it with you guys, you know, right there. So I'll get that tightened up. We'll check and see what we've got. Get our exhaust on, get our carburetor on, and get our governor assembly and flywheel mounted on back here. See what we got. All right, let's get our flywheel and governor assembly mounted on. This I might have done wrong. Yeah, maybe I did. Shoot. Yep. Looks like I got that backward. It'll be a whole lot more challenging to get all this assembled, but now that we know where we want it set, we'll just pull that off and get that out of there. Get our lockout out. Then we can slide this off, slide it into our fingers for our governor balls, like that. We'll slide this on together. There. We'll get our hub. We'll get all this here adjusted up a little bit better. And just like that. It's got the split ring. It's tapered. The flywheel itself is tapered. So when you draw this up, there you go. It binds in tight. Really good setup. I like that. So yep, that's just how it's going to work. We'll get this here adjusted out. I'll show you guys what we got. See, now we still have travel. So we'll have to scoot this flywheel out considerably more. That's how we can adjust our throw on our link too. So, okay, we've got our flywheel mounted on here, our governor linkage, and see if I can show you guys. Get you guys right in line. So if I slide this flywheel in and out, you see how all that governor linkage moves together? See? Now watch this up here. See our lockout linkage up here? Same thing happens when I move that. Our fly ball flies out. Right here, this would be, wide open. It's, going to lock it out. But watch. even at an idle. Get this off of there. See, it doesn't, there isn't enough clearance for it to drop off. So that is a height thing that needs to be addressed. I mean, you don't want to, why doesn't it run? Well, because it can't close and make compression. So we're going to have to get that set, which isn't a big deal. But another thing, see how we have the cutout here? That is opposite of our big end of our rod. Here's our counterweight. We have a counterweight here machined in. We have the same thing here, and on the inside, on this side, we also have it lightened out. So we want to clock that correctly also. I'll go ahead and get that there set, and yeah, well guys, we're moving along pretty quick on it tonight. After fitting that, crank in there, everything else has worked just absolutely beautiful. So, all right, let me get this here lined up, get our depth set. See how those governor balls are moving? Yeah. So all this it does play a huge part, the depth of your flywheel mounting. Okay, this comes with a beautiful accessory pulley. I really like that. And it's just held on with 6 of these little Allen headed cap screws. They just line up. It can go in any direction you want. It does have a notch in it for using that starting rope. So depending on, maybe it's personal preference, but where you want that notch, well, you can clock it in different directions. So I'll get the other 5 of these in, and then we'll get up there in the front. Okay, accessory pulley is mounted. One thing I didn't do is put the spring on here. I'm sure that's another thing that we are going to be addressing. A weaker spring will make it run slower, but there's other things that can be adjusted. Well, you guys saw how much just moving that flywheel in and out will play a difference. But this is the factory spring. I'll put him on here. Hopefully it wants to stay. There are little grooves cut in the end of these balls for this spring to sit there and catch on. There. So there we go. Bring it around the front, and we're going to work on this oiler here too, because that was something that was also brought up in the comments from, well, when we looked at this little guy, remember him? The Coil Motor Works engine. You guys haven't watched that one yet, I'll put a link to it right up here. It's a really cool little motor. So, all right, let's get our exhaust mounted. No gasket in this, no O-ring. It gets mounted with the same screws that we use to mount that accessory pulley on. Look at our carburetor here next. I'm excited about this carburetor. I say that now. I may eat my words, but the way this carburetor looks is this will be our air bleed, or our inlet. This is adjustable for how much air we let in. And well, our fuel line goes in there. So this will be our fuel mixture. So we will be able to adjust air fuel mixture on this. Pretty impressive. That's definitely an upgrade to some of the past ones, because that has been the bane of a lot of these little engines, is the carburetor. And well, think about it. How many other carburetor manufacturers were there back when these engines were, in use, full-size ones? There were so many different carburetor manufacturers. Some of them are still around, and some of them, well, I've never even heard of that one. All right, well, I'm going to struggle to put this in. Show you guys what it looks like after I get done fighting. All right, guys, well, we're back. I did get a spark plug in, and you guys see this little socket here? There's not enough room to get a standard socket down inside this pocket. It's kind of funny, socket in a pocket. So, yeah, listen here. Put it in the lathe, turned it down, and cleaned it back up. We got our spark plug in. It's tight. For ignition, I'm not sure if this is what is going to come. You guys order the kit, but I've got an extra one. Not sure if this is the one we're going to use when we're done, but it's what we're going to use for tonight. I do have the smaller one left over. That'll fit in here a whole lot nicer when we make the actual base for it. So we'll probably use this one, but we're going to try it with this one. When it comes to a fuel tank, I do have a fuel tank that will probably mount back here behind it. And we do have compression, not a whole lot, but we haven't ran it. And but what we're going to use for a fuel tank is just that glass syringe. We'll put some fuel in it, and I'll probably just tape this to the fuel can and run it underneath there. That way we can see how much fuel it is. You guys want to see this thing run, or just want to hear me sit here and talk? All right, let me start getting all this wired up. So this is what we came up with for a rudimentary fuel tank. It's just a butane bottle that I use it to run one of my larger boilers, and we just electrical taped a syringe to it. Looks like shit, but I think it'll work. So let's get some fuel sucked up into this syringe, and we'll hook up our fuel line down here at the bottom. Guys, I'm kind of excited. Usually I wouldn't show, this level of butchery, but we'll see what happens. Let's pull this out of here. I still had some fuel left in that line, it looks like. We'll dump a little bit of our 40-to-1 before we fire it up. We will go through and oil everything. That ought to be plenty of fuel. We're going to leave the plunger out of it, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to oil everything because, well, we oiled everything back here, but we didn't oil any of our valves or anything like that. So we'll get everything oiled up, and with any luck, hopefully, we've seen enough of these engines run. We've worked on enough of them. This isn't going to be too much of a challenge. We'll get it to fire right off. But who knows? It's not the fault of the kit. It's probably my fault. So, all right. We'll put a little bit of oil down in here in our mains. And, yeah, we still didn't mount our cylinder oiler yet. But we did oil the cylinder. We can take a look at that. I guess, yeah, we probably should. Let me pull that out. So this is the cylinder oiler that comes with it. Very nice little oiler. One of the comments is they open way too much and they dump out way too fast. Well, these are adjustable. All you gotta do is run that nut in. That knurled part right here. Run that down a little bit. It won't open so far. So I don't know where this one's set at, and it looks like it's bottomed all the way out, but we're going to put some oil down in here, and we'll see how much of it wants to run out and how fast it does. And if we need to, well, if we've got to modify this and, just file some off the bottom, absolutely, we sure can. So a little bit less than half, but let's see what drips out of the bottom of here. This is suspenseful, I'm sure. Yeah, doesn't look like a whole lot's dripping out. Just a little bit. So, yeah, see, we got a drip coming now. I'm okay with that. Honestly, I mean, that's not terribly fast, and this isn't terribly thick oil, so I think we'll be all right. Let's get this installed, and we're going to see if this thing will go together. Okay, well, turn our ignition on. shove our cap down. I'm not seeing the fuel move up the tube yet. Let's open this. Oh, this valve's closed for the fuel. So we'll open this. Let's say 1 turn. And we'll open our air, oh, a half a turn. We'll see if we can see our fuel moving up. Oh, yeah. Okay, guys, well, I'm against using the ripcord on these, so, and it did fire. I felt it. Well, I probably flooded the living guts out of it. Okay, well, we shut our fuel off. All right, well, once I get it to fire, guys, you guys will get to see it. Yeah, I flooded the guts out of this because I've got fuel pouring out of it. It could be because of the height of this and how far I opened it. I'm not faulting the engine. Well, it did fire off, so we're getting somewhere, guys. And I opened the fuel valve too far. 3 clicks. Let's see what happens there. Four clicks. Too much? Let's try 2. Compression really came up. Okay, well, I did have it to sit here and run. So let's see. Now it's going to make me a liar. Get my finger underneath it. It does run, but those gears, good Lord, we shouldn't hear them that bad. Turn our oiler on. Let us sit here and run for a little bit. And this is the first that it's actually ran, guys. So it is going to need to break in. It's going to need to wear in. But you guys get to see the whole process. I'll get a cart made for it or a base made and get everything mounted underneath. But to go from a kit to a running engine, and how long did you guys watch this? 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Took me a lot longer to do it. But hey guys, if I can do it, hell, anybody can do it. So yeah, we'll keep tweaking on this. I really do appreciate you guys watching. You guys are fantastic. Thanks again. We'll see you guys soon.